Didn't even see you there. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. This is Nick Wright. It is hump day. We are in
Jenna,
it. We are ready to go.
The camera surprised you.
Yeah, I had no idea. I was just hanging out here all morning, and then I looked up, and there you were. So, how you doing?
That's a great-looking suit, Cris
Great
Carter.
suit, Cris Carter.
I think you look lovely, Jenna Wolfe.
Love your tie, Nick. We're just going to start with
I'm being honest. People can't see the shoes Jenna wears on camera, but they're lovely as well.
Yeah, I think that
What is happening?
people on Twitter, what they should do is you should cast a vote for the people you think are the best dressed in morning television. And I just think it will be way, way up there.
Okay, I'll do a poll. I'll start a Twitter poll. Who are the other? We'll discuss
candidates?
Off the air who
Just
the
morning
candidates are.
morning TV.
Morning
anything.
TV. All right,
News,
got it.
Sports, or anything. Morning TV.
All right.
Come bring
Coming for your head, Morning Joe.
I know, Joe. It's okay, Joe.
Yeah,
Not coming
coming for your head.
Or you
Back
make up.
Scarborough.
Walk that back just a little bit. Why don't we talk about some sports, because that seems more comfortable. Welcome to the NFL offseason of reportedly disgruntled superstars. You have your Odell, you have your Dez, maybe Tom Brady. Now, is it Aaron Rodgers? In a report by Yahoo Sports, Rodgers is supposedly frustrated with the organization after not being consulted on personnel decisions. Just this offseason, the Packers fired his quarterback coach in Alex Van Pelt and released his favorite target in Jordy Nelson. After this report, Rodgers tweeted out #FakeNewsTuesday, so we know how he feels. He met the media yesterday discussing the offseason.
That's the toughest part about the whole thing, is losing guys over the years, the Jordys, the James Jones, the A.J. Hawks, the John Coons, the Julius Peppers, guys you get close to. And again, those are team decisions. I know my role, and that's to play quarterback the best that I can, and the team is going to try and put the right guys in place, the right coaches in place, the right players in place. So you just have to trust the process.
We haven't heard that before. A lot of this has to come down to, Cece, whether players should have the right to be able to either be consulted on or meddle with or have some say in personnel decisions. What was your reaction to the Yahoo Sports report about Aaron Rodgers?
It's what I've believed. You know, I didn't believe that Aaron Rodgers wanted some type of input, but as a veteran player, there's a lot of things that once you start to understand the game and once you've had success at the NFL game, there's other things that you have to have motivate you and other connective things that help you play better or other things that draw your interest outside of football. Now, when you get into an NFL locker room and then you go home, there's not a lot of people that you're going to meet and encounter that have a life or understand like what you're going through. So a lot of that camaraderie and a lot of the things that you really rely on is the locker room providing you with peers, not a bunch of young guys, because once you get beyond that, the things that you want to spend your time at, the things that you might want to conversate about, you might not be able to do that with a great percentage of the locker room. So when you lose a Julius Pepper, when you lose some of these other things, as a veteran player, it hurts you because it takes away some of your enjoyment and the people who you can talk to and who you can trust. As Aaron Rodgers gone throughout his career, let's look at how he started his career. With Brett Favre not necessarily taking him under his wing to teach him about pro football. So he had to learn a lot on his own. He had to develop a lot of relationships on his own. And when you start getting rid of those players and you see these players go other places and continue to play, like a Julius Peppers, and have some type of success, it eats away at you because you like the locker room, but you like some older guys who are mature, guys who you've had battles with, you've had success stories with, so it affects the players. But to me, that doesn't give you the intel or the knowledge that you should be involved in the personnel. He doesn't know personnel better than the front office knows personnel. And if he did get involved in personnel, how much money do you pay him? The guys who are friends with Aaron, do you pay them more because Aaron Rodgers, he's the best quarterback in the league? And as a player, you get too emotional. So, no, I don't think any player, I don't care from Tom Brady to Aaron Rodgers to any, I don't believe they know the personnel as well as the front office or are equipped to do that type of job.
You understand why the personnel decisions made around the Green Bay Packers would land differently with Aaron Rodgers than the personnel decisions made with the New England Patriots have landed with Tom Brady, because the Patriots have had year after year high-level, unprecedented success. Rodgers probably feels, man, we made a Super Bowl. almost a decade ago, haven't been back since. I've been playing at this super high level, so the way we've been doing business maybe isn't the smartest way to do business. But I don't think, of all those guys you mentioned, Cece, Jordy, Julius, that he mentioned, Kuhn, I think this is about the move they made. I think the impetus of this is about a non-player move. Alex Van Pelt. That was the first name we heard. That was the one name. His quarterback's coach. Thank you, Jenna. That he went on the record, and Aaron's very cautious with what he says in interviews. He has admitted he records on his own line every interview he does, so he can't be misquoted. And if he is misquoted, he has proof he was misquoted. So he's very judicious with what he says in these interviews. And he went out of his way to say the Alex Van Pelt thing surprised me, confused me a little bit. And I think that Aaron maybe even agrees with Cece that players shouldn't have a ton of say in how this is done. And there's 32 teams in the league. I don't know of a team in the NFL that they are heavily consulting players saying, what should we do with this personnel move? But I wouldn't blame Aaron Rodgers if he thought, the one place I should have some say in is who the flipping quarterback's coach is. I'm the only quarterback on this team that matters. You guys can say we put all this time into Brett Hundley and Joe Callahan and then instantly move on from them the year after. Like, the quarterback's coach works with me, and to move on from him without asking me if I want you to move on from him, if they had asked
him, what do you think he was going to say?
I think he would. My guess is he would say no, but I think he would feel, even if they just tell him ahead of time, we're moving on from him. Even if they just give you the heads up. Like, that's the part.
Okay, if they give you the heads up, then they start a precedent. Now, other things that I'm starting to do or thinking about doing, do I have to run them past Aaron too?
I think it's...
Let me tell you what's more important. It's more important that Mike McCarthy, that's what he's done. He's coached quarterbacks his career. He's called plays his whole career. And if Mike McCarthy can't work with Alex, I don't care what Aaron thinks. Because the head coach is spending more time. And the head coach is the offensive mind. And the head coach is the one who wants to get rid of him. So it's not as if the wide receiver coach didn't like the quarterback coach. They didn't get along. It was the head coach, obviously. And he spends more time with them. I think that time that the head coach and the offensive staff spends with that quarterback coach, they know him better than Aaron Rodgers does.
I think that very well may be true, which is why Aaron Rodgers, you can argue, shouldn't have veto power over this decision. But I do think when he's the best player, I believe, arguably in the history of your franchise, one of the greatest franchises in pro sports, a simple heads up would have gone a long way. And when you say it sets a precedent, like, I don't think it's a bad precedent to set as far as in this very specific instance. If they're going to change the time of the quarterback meetings, right, I would think now that's different than we're making some major adjustment, we're running past.
Right, and then we're also making a huge assumption that Alex, the quarterback coach, that he was good. Like, we're making a huge assumption that, hey, because Aaron Rodgers is good, maybe his quarterback coach is good. But what I'm going to trust is what I know about the NFL and Mike McCarthy. And I trust Mike McCarthy in coaching quarterback and calling offensive plays more than I do any other information that's come out of Green Bay.
Well, does it factor in at all that they're going to start to work with him now on this new contract coming up, and obviously money is going to be a big issue, and they want to be in each of their good graces? I know that he doesn't know much about personnel, and he doesn't know much about the salary cap, but he knows Jordy Nelson. He knows who he likes to throw the ball to. He knows who he's been successful with. Maybe he doesn't have veto power, but maybe just so that you have this, like, olive branch of, hey, we're going to start to sit down soon and start negotiating this. We want this to be okay with all parties involved. Yeah. Isn't that, can you extend that?
I wouldn't do it because one day they're going to come knocking on his door. All right? One day they're going to get rid of Aaron Rodgers, too. That's the inevitability of being a pro player. That's one of the things that we all have in common. One day they're going to take that jersey off your back, and you got to go. You got to go somewhere else to be if you want to work. And that's going to happen to Aaron too, as good as he is. So then what do they do then? Do they give him some type of warning? Hey, Aaron, over the next couple of years, we're thinking about phasing you out. Like, well, how should they handle that point?
But I don't think you have to worry about that point right now. I just think that hurt feelings and the idea of disrespect, no matter what you do for a living, are a real thing. And I think that if they had to do it all over again, would they have given him a heads up on Alex Van Pelt? Would they have tried to set aside precedent to a degree to make, because maybe they didn't realize he was going to react with the way he did. And Cece, I agree. I don't know how good Alex Van Pelt is.
Thank you.
Which is why I'm not making the argument they made a mistake in getting rid of Alex Van Pelt. The argument I'm making is I think they made potentially a mistake in not factoring in how
NFL
Aaron
front
Rodgers
offices are making a mistake if they start going to players, asking them what they think about who should be here and who shouldn't be here.
Regardless of the player.
NFL front offices are also making a mistake if they start asking the players who should be coaching the players.
Cece, let me just ask you real quick. Do you draw no distinction between asking somebody their permission to a degree or giving someone a heads up?
I could care less what they think.
But what about, hold on, but what about giving them a heads up? Aaron, this
I don't need to give
decision
them a heads up.
Okay, well
I don't need to give them a warning.
Even if it's the Tom Brady's and the Aaron Rodgers.
What's the downside to it is my question.
What's the upside?
The upside is your best player's not upset.
Yeah, he's going to be upset anyway.
You don't think...
What you do is open yourself up for other things that he thinks he should be involved in, and he shouldn't. People in the front office, they run the front office. You're on the field, play down there. That's what we're paying you for. All right? The personnel, someone else has handled that. That's someone else's role in this organization.
We're going to have a former Packer on the show, Greg Jennings, and we'll discuss with him as well coming up. But on the other side, how have the Pelicans been able to pull off 2 road wins as underdogs? That's next on First Things First. Pelicans and Blazers in the brow finishing the alley-oop while falling down.
They gotta stop. Listen, man. You gotta stop throwing these high degree of difficulty alley-oops to my man Anthony Davis. How many times have we shown him butt first? Yeah. Anthony Davis catch an alley-oop and end up falling because he had to spin to go get it. I mean, it's a hell of a play by him, but come on,
This is one of many spectacular plays the Pelicans had in last night's game.
Yes. All right, same game. Playoff Rondo is our favorite Rondo. Sick pass to Drew Holiday.
Man, put a little English on it.
We miss Rondo. Like, we thought his basketball career was over with.
This Rondo.
Now Rondo, oh, my goodness. And it was helped by the injury of Boogie Cousins, because now Alvin Gentry, the coach, has the ball in Rondo's hands so much more than when they had the Twin Towers.
Absolutely. He's been awesome in these playoffs, just like he was in last year's playoffs, those first couple games before he hurt his elbow.
All right, more now on the Pelicans and the Trailblazers. Pelicans, the underdogs in this one, so the fact that they stole a road win in Game 1 was pretty big. Until last night when they stole a road win in Game 2, even bigger. Kleptos. New Orleans beat Portland again, 112-102. Drew Holiday leading the way with 33 points. Your brow, Anthony Davis with 22 points, 13 boards. Chris, how do you think the Pelicans are able to go up and be up 2-0 against this Trailblazers team?
Well, to go on the road and get up 2-0 in the series against a hot team like Portland, and we know what they can do offensively, there's a lot of things you could talk about. Of course, a lot of conversation will start with the brow, but the reason why is their defense. I mean, they have the answer for Portland, their offensive sets. They were able to negate the type of shots they were getting. Portland typically gets a lot of clean looks at the three-point line. The Damian Lillard, C.J. McCollum combination has been flat outplayed by playoff Rondo and Drew.
And coming in, we all thought that the Blazers' backcourt was going to be the backcourt to beat. No one anticipated it was going to be the other way around.
Right, and then the thing also that's nice about the playoffs, you really start seeing some stories that you're not necessarily following. The Drew Holiday. Since Boogie Cousins was injured, Drew Holiday is their next scoring option, is probably their best one-on-one defensive player. So you start seeing some of these things, and, man, how did the Pelicans, how did they finish the season like that? You're able to see those stories. Rondo playing at a level that we saw last year in the playoffs, the first couple games before he got hurt. But their backcourt being able to slow down and negate the backcourt of Portland, their overall defense, being able to hold them to 100 points, under 100 points in the first game, you're going to win a lot of road games in the playoffs. So Alvin Gentry, you have to give him a lot of credit. When Boogie Cousins got hurt, a lot of people said their season was over with, but not only to get into the playoffs, say we're not satisfied, and to be up 2-0 on the number 3 seed in the Western Conference, tremendous amount of accolades and hand clap that we have to give to Alvin Gentry and that staff for going to Portland and taking it 2-0.
Well, and I mean, to win the first 2 on the road, just a little context here. That's only happened 25 times in NBA history. The team that did that, if you take the first 2 from the home team, they're 21-4. So the Pelicans are now historically heavy favorites in this series. The last 10 times that's happened, those teams are 9-1. The one loss in there was actually Rondo's team last year, and most people don't think they would have lost that had he stayed healthy against the Celtics. The 8-1, Bulls versus the Celtics. But what we have happening here is a remarkable turnabout because the better backcourt has been the Pelicans. No one could have seen that coming. How did the Blazers get the 3 seed in the West? Because of their backcourt. Damian Lillard, maybe first-team All-NBA Damian Lillard, and a fringe All-Star candidate, C.J. McCollum. Well, now we're 2 games in. Damian Lillard has been the 5th best guy in the series. That can't happen. Anthony Davis has been Anthony Davis, and Drew Holiday has been spectacular on both ends. But to Cece's point on Alvin Gentry, this I think will surprise people. The Pelicans finished this year first in the NBA in pace, the fastest team in the league. But you got to keep in mind, they were nowhere near first in pace the first 40 games of the year when Boogie Cousins was out there. So what you always say we won't talk about coaches. What Gentry did to midseason, say we're going to change the way we play. We don't have the same personnel we did. Now we're going to go run. And to be able to adjust on the fly, they have since March 1st not only a top 5 offense, but a top 5 defense in the league. That's since March 1st. We're almost at the end of April. Like, this Pelicans team has maybe been better than we thought it could be, because you look at the roster and you're like, well, they only have 4 above-average NBA guys. But those 4 guys are all playing excellent basketball. The backcourt, Anthony Davis and Nikola Mirotic.
How does Portland get back into this? You look at Damian Lillard last night, 17 points on 18 shots. How much do they need him to step up?
Man, Damian Lillard, if you're getting outscored by Drew Holiday by 10 points in the head-to-head, but it's not only because the points per game, Rondo and Drew Holiday, they're averaging about 37, 38 points. Same as Portland. But
McCollum and Lillard.
but the efficiency of it. McCollum's shooting 41%. Damian Lillard shooting 30, a little above 30-something percent. So they got to get better shot selection, and they can't shoot that poorly in Portland be able to come out of this hole that they're in. So a lot of it is shooting the ball, the type of shots that they're getting. Most of their shots are contested compared to they're typically very good off the pick and roll, and they get some wide open looks during the game that they're not getting.
Listen, it's a great point. McCollum and Lillard are averaging the exact same number of points as Holiday and Rondo. Both 38 points per game cumulatively. But McCollum and Lillard are doing it on 36% shooting, and Rondo and Holiday are doing it on 50% shooting. So if not only does Portland not have the advantage in the backcourt, and by the way, that disregards defense. Like, keep in mind, obviously, Drew Holiday is giving you a better edge defensively than Damian Lillard is, and then C.J. McCollum is. They are a negative defensively. Holiday is one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, and Rondo can be at times a careless defender, but he can be a good defender. And then we're not even talking about Anthony Davis. If you were to tell me last week the Pelicans are going to be up 2-0, how did it happen? I would have said, well, in game 1, the Brown must have gone like 45, 20, and 5. And in game 2, he must have gone like 40, 15, and 10. Anthony Davis has been good, but not much better than his season averages. He's averaging about what his regular season points per game are, a little higher in rebounding. It's because of the backcourt.
Yeah, but he did set the tone in game number 1.
Yes.
And that's the most important. When you go out 1-0, it was because of the superstar. Also, you got to give the superstar credit because of his overall versatility. Is he the best big man in basketball? Yes, but he's the only big man, too, that could go from a post-up offense to now a transition offense and not miss a beat.
All right, so the Pelicans take a 2-0 series lead over the Trailblazers. Cavs getting ready for their second game. Coming up, what do they have to do to even things up?
You could be looking at that face, and that won't be happy. Oh, he won't be worried. Oh, he won't be.
Back after this. Finally, speaking of Danny Ainge, we weren't. The Celtics rolled to a 120-106 win over the Bucks to take a 2-0 series lead. Jaylen Brown became the youngest Celtic ever to score 30 in a playoff game. Nick, can the Bucks rally back against this young Boston team?
I think they can, but they are going to have to make some significant adjustments. And usually when we talk about adjustments, we're talking about coaching, talking about change or rotation. That's not the type of adjustment I mean. The type of adjustment I mean is get anything whatsoever out of their backcourt. If you'd have told me going into this that after the first 2 games, Giannis would be averaging 33 and Chris Middleton would be averaging 28, I'd say, okay, Milwaukee will take that. Giannis has been the best player in the series. Chris Middleton's been an awesome number 2 option. But what I didn't see coming, what I don't think anyone saw coming, was the Bucks' backcourt all of a sudden not just getting slightly outplayed, but dramatically outplayed by the Celtics backcourt. Look at the comparison between the 2 backcourts. You have in the 2 games, the Celtics starting backcourt are outscoring the Bucks 96-25. Tony Snell has 2 points in each of the first 2 games, and Eric Bledsoe's averaging 11 points per game while not playing good defense. Like, that's the adjustment they need, CeCe. They need their backcourt to show up for them to have a chance at winning these next 2 games at home.
Also, the coach got to tighten up their rotation. They're playing too many players. Like, they out there, they act like it's a preseason game. They play 12, 13. I mean, they play too many guys.
They played everyone they suited up last night.
Yeah, like it's too many guys. Like, they need to tighten up the rotation. Now, they've had a lot of injuries throughout the season. So when they came into the playoffs, it was like, okay, Jabari Parker, what are we going to get out of? Nothing. They've got nothing out of him. So for me, I was listening to Shaq last night, and he said if Pat Riley was coaching this team, he'd come into the locker room, tell 2 or 3 of them, you got 5 minutes of work in the next game. You better show me something. If not, you ain't going to never play the rest of this series. So they got Jabari Parker. You mentioned the backcourt, but Brogdon's been injured. Last year's Rookie of the Year. I don't know if he's on a minute restriction, but he's got to play more minutes for Milwaukee for them to be able to get back in this series.
And just quickly on the flip side of it, because the question was about Milwaukee, so we wanted to address that. But again, all the credit in the world to Boston. Like, Boston, their players, which player on Boston is not playing up to his full potential right now? Like, Tatum had a rough game last night, but guess what? Tatum was good in the first game, and then Jaylen Brown was awesome for him. There was a moment you pointed out before the show, CeCe, that stuck out to you when we talk about how good Brad Stevens is, how good the coaching is. What'd you see at the end of, was it the 3rd quarter?
End of the 3rd quarter.
The Bucks have cut it to 12.
3.5 seconds to go. They miss a free throw. They immediately call a timeout, so it gets the ball at half court. He calls a play. They end up getting maybe the 2nd or 3rd look that they wanted of the original design of the play, but Larkins ends up hitting a clutch 3 to send the lead to 15 points. But their ability to be in sync, to know, let's call a timeout, all right? Let our coach call a play. And that right there, just when you get into playoff basketball, those set pieces, when you can on a regular basis draw up something and get guys, look, it gives guys tremendous amount of confidence.
This team is really clicking on all cylinders at a very, very good time without many of the key components that we thought we were going to see when the season started. Before the game, Kyrie Irving sent a text message to everyone on the team. No one said what it was, but it was words of encouragement. It was something that actually everybody responded to and was very excited about. And they were like, we're all sort of in this together. And then they go out and they play a game like that.
Listen, they scored 120 points on 90 possessions. This was a Celtics team going into the series I thought would struggle to score 90 points in any game just because playoff basketball gets tougher to score. You don't have a go-to scoring option. They're making it work. Like, all the credit in the world to the Celtics and Terry Rozier, who, while Eric Bledsoe might not know who you are, I know who you are. You were the untouchable Terry Rozier, a punchline for a long time. You were excellent last night, and in Game 1, he hit the shot that people thought was the game winner. The Celtics been great.
Good stuff. What people do you think thought was the game winner? Oh, just people that tweeted prematurely?
Well, you, our friend Gus Johnson, everybody thought it was the game winner.
All right, moving on. If sports says you're only as good as your last game, then the Cavs aren't great. LeBron and company looking to right their ship in Game 2 against the Pacers. Game 1 didn't go exactly as planned for Cleveland, mainly because they lost. Cleveland has struggled all season long with constant lineup changes and the pressure to return to finals for the 4th straight season. However, not surprisingly, Ty Lue said there is no reason to panic just yet.
The mood is good. You know, I think guys understand what it takes to win, to beat this team. Got to be aggressive, got to be more physical, got to own our space offensively. They picked us up full court, they denied swing passes, denied elbow passes. So we just got to be stronger with the ball. We can't turn the ball over 17 times. We got to be physical with the ball, own our space, and we'll be fine.
CeCe, Coach Lou mentioned a little bit the turnovers, the coming out being a little bit more aggressive, a quicker start than in game one. What do you think that the one key is for the Cavs to even up this series?
It's got to be a quick start by LeBron. If the coach is saying a quick start, he's already said it the day before, challenged LeBron to that's what they have to do. And that's LeBron getting into the scoring, not getting everyone else into the game. That, to me, it really will play itself out. But if LeBron, and what you want to watch is how many field goals he can get outside the paint. If he can get 5 to 8 field goals outside the paint,
because he didn't in game one.
No, it's going to open up the rest of the court for them. It will get the other guys open looks. But at the end of the day, it's not always about one thing. And you got to be able to make shots. You can say whatever you want to, but you got to be able to make shots. In the NBA, there are too many good shooters, and when you can't put the ball in the basket, LeBron doesn't have any help, you get off to the slow start. And then guys start to get a little tight. One thing we have to worry in this situation, a lot of these guys have not had success with LeBron. So if this game remains tight and we get into the second half, how will they react to that? That's another thing that I want to watch besides LeBron and getting off the mark quick.
Listen, I know LeBron said, I'm not concerned. I've been down 3-1 in the finals, like a couple days off. We're going to find out if that's the truth or not based on how he approaches the first quarter. Because there's only been 2 instances in the Eastern Conference playoffs since LeBron's been back in Cleveland where he's gone into a game trailing in the series. They actually happened in the same series, the first year he was there. And by the way, a lot of similarities between that first-year team and this team. Unproven, not playoff experience for his teammates, not a lot of experience as a
first year back
unit.
in Cleveland?
Yes, the first year back in Cleveland. I should have mentioned that. That was 4 years ago, the year they made their first finals, LeBron's 5th straight. Like, Kyrie didn't have finals experience. Kevin Love didn't have any of the experience that we now attribute to them. They were down 1-0 to Chicago in a series. LeBron in Game 2 took 29 shots. They were then down 2-1 to Chicago in the same series. LeBron in Game 4 took 30 shots, including the game winner in the corner to even up that series. Like, LeBron, we saw him his first year in the finals after they were down 0-1 and Kyrie was injured. What did he do the rest of the finals? Took 30-plus shots a game because that was their only path to victory. The next year in the finals, once they were down 3-1, back-to-back 41-point games. When LeBron's back is up against the wall, if he feels like we have to have this game, then he will approach it the way CeCe said yesterday. He'd like him to approach it more, be more aggressive. I'm not convinced that's the LeBron we're going to see tonight. I'm not convinced that's going to be his mentality because I'm not convinced LeBron looks at this as a backup against the wall situation. I don't think this team's as good as the Chicago team they were facing 4 years ago, and I don't think LeBron at that moment in his career was playing as well as he's playing right now. So I think LeBron is going to stay the distributor LeBron that he was in Game 1 and trust his teammates to hit shots. I'd be surprised if LeBron takes more than 21, 22 shots tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if he has more than 13, 14 assists. I think he's going to have a similar approach as he did in Game 1 with some slight tweaks and with a different starting lineup.
I don't understand how this team comes out knowing full well that the playoffs started, knowing full well what's on the line, not playing aggressively. Kevin Love said like yesterday, I would say our intensity, at least until we got hit in the mouth that first quarter, it didn't quite feel like, I guess, the playoffs. You saw it on the calendar. The game was coming up. Game 1 of the playoffs. We talking about LeBron being more aggressive or maybe shooting more? Kevin Love felt that way. Those are the 2 guys that actually have playoff experience on the team, and it felt like both of them took it for granted.
And, Jenna, you're right. It's unexcusable. Like, this is what they've been supposed to be waiting on. Saying, oh, man, the regular season guys are bored with it. Oh, when are we going to get all our guys back? Well, all your guys are back. It is the playoffs. Everything's on the line. And it's really hard to explain. We can't make excuses for him. This should be the time that Kevin Love and the rest of the Cavs are fully engaged. But we saw a team sleepwalk through the first quarter, giving up 31 points, not to a great offensive team. And the Pacers, like the Pacers are the middle of the pack in the NBA, maybe on the lower level as far as the offensive team is concerned. So no excuse for that.
That I fully agree with. That the idea that they would Game 1, the only reason the Cavs' regular season could have been justified, the only reason, no matter the roster turnover, only winning 50 games when peak LeBron James is on your team is justified, is if it's because we're getting ready to ramp up for the playoffs. And for the first playoff experience for a lot of these guys, for the first playoff game, first playoff quarter for this Cavs team as a unit, to get beat 33-14 and just basically, they lost the game by 18 points. They lost the first quarter by 19 points. Like, the game was lost right then and there.
Yeah.
That's inexcusable. There is no disagreement. There's no daylight between CC, me, and you on that. We all agree there. Whether or not that means LeBron is going to change his approach tonight, that's yet to be seen. We'll see how nervous he is. If LeBron thinks they're up against the wall, he's going to take 25, 30 shots this
I
game.
wouldn't be shocked if we got on TV tomorrow and they were down 2-0.
Wow.
Okay, that, by the way, there's a lot of daylight there. I would be shell-shocked if they lose tonight.
Okay.
All right, let's switch gears.
We've been
Coming
watching them
up,
all year.
where will Des Bryant end up next season? That's next. First things
Michael
first.
Jordan, he wouldn't have.
Welcome back to First Things First. We're now joined by former Super Bowl champion and friend of the show, Greg Jennings. Greg, haven't seen you in a
Long-lost
while.
friend of the show.
I know, right?
We've just been pen pals the last few months. Good to see you, Greg. How are you?
Hey,
It's a nice suit you got there, preacher,
when
man.
your kids in private school, they get that 2 weeks and some change vacation. So I had to make sure I planned.
But welcome back.
Oh, good to see you.
Nice.
Good to be
Good to have you. All right. We now join our continuing coverage of Des Bryant and his potential landing spot, already in progress. Des has been linked to multiple teams, including your former team, Green Bay. Greg, in a radio interview, he mentioned that he would like to play for the Giants. So many takes, so little time. Des was asked about his priorities in finding a new home. Take a listen.
It's truly not about the money. I'm gonna shoot that straight. I want to win. That's what it's always been about. I want to win. You know, if it was really about the money, I could have made a big deal. I got more touchdowns than anybody. At the end of the day, that other stat don't matter. It's how many times you can get that ball in the end zone. Last time I checked when it came to this game, you know, and I could have made a big deal. I played out all 5 of my, years. I didn't complain about that. I didn't want to complain. I was too busy trying to get on the football field, and to help win ball games with Dallas, I just want to win.
Greg, there's a lot to break down here, but if you were a Super Bowl contending team coming into the 2018 season, would you want a guy like Des Bryant on your team?
Absolutely. You could use a guy like Des Bryant on your team. He provides you with options at receiver. Number one option, I don't see that any longer. And again, he has talent. He can, if he's willing to take the next step. CC, I've listened to you for years talk about this young man, and for a while I was, like you, hoping that we would see that 13, 14 Des Bryant take the next step and continue to build on what he established. He never did that. He never really took the time to focus on the things that could get him better. Route running. Even his hand, Des Bryant attacks the ball great, but as far as having great hands, he lacks great hands. So attention to detail, I don't see that. And when you talk about joining a Super Bowl team, you're not going to be, and you're not a number one guy. You have to be locked in on those small things, the details, the fundamentals of playing the receiver position. Because now, if you're not the number one guy, you're a number 2, number 3 guy, you're going to be depended on heavily on a Super Bowl contending team, because your number one guy is going to get the coverage leaning to him. So we need you to step up and make plays. And I think Des Bryant definitely could do that. The Giants, as he mentioned, that's
not a fit for you.
That's nowhere close to being a fit. He needs, and I hesitate.
If he goes there, you're going to have to come here with your Bible. You're going to have to be the wide receiver coach for the Giants.
Look, man, it's too many different personalities in that room.
Right. One thing I'm concerned about is when you talk about later in your career being part of a contender, you talk about being a role player. You're talking about sometimes even taking a lesser role. You're talking about sometimes looking up the next morning and seeing that, wow, I was only targeted 2 times.
Yes.
The reason why was because I didn't have the matchup that other guys are. Is Dez ready for that? I'm not even going to get there talking about is it about money? Like any guy that say it's not about money, you know what it's about. Like eventually it's going to be about the money. He had no say-so what the money was going to be in Dallas.
The quote there didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, we need about 2 or 3 interpreters to be able to interpret that whole interview. But let's just stay focused on, would he be an asset to a contender? What type of attitude is he going to bring? Is he going to be a role player? And ultimately, what Dez has to be able to understand is when you get to a certain age, the front office and the coaching staff, they're paying you for your ability, but they're also paying you for what kind of guy you're going to be in the locker room. You know, and as Greg said, if you don't think he's a #1 receiver, you better be concerned about the impact that he's going to have on the young guys that you have playing, either on how much film they study, how hard they're going to work. So Dez is a hard worker, but is he the smartest worker? And for me, after being in the league 9 years, that's the first time I'm going to look at hiring someone to help me with my routes, knowing that that's been my #1 weakness as far as my career. That right there is very concerning to me, and it would be concerning to me if I had a group of young receivers who I was exposing them to, who they were going to be learning from.
There's 2 quotes now that I can't get over with Dez. One was from the initial interview, the one we had on the show yesterday that he did with NFL Network, that we kind of glossed over, where he said, he was like, listen, he was like, I could have had way better numbers and broken even more records, but I wasn't concerned with that. I wasn't concerned with changing the offense to do what I needed. And I thought of it, and I'm like, that's not accurate. Like, just that's just flatly not accurate. The idea that the offense, when Dez was at his peak in years 3, 4, and 5, was somehow holding him back, that's not at all what I was seeing. I actually was seeing the opposite. I was seeing an offense and a quarterback that was giving him every opportunity to get as big a numbers as possible. And then the quotes there where he's saying, listen, if I wanted more, if it was about money, I got more touchdowns than anybody. I guess he means in Cowboys history. or receivers in Cowboys history. What could you have done? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not picking on him for that because Dez Bryant, I'm a professional communicator. He's a professional football player. He's a much better communicator than I am football player. So I'm not picking on him for that part of it. But it's the mentality, which is, that does not strike me as the mentality of someone that's like, yeah, I'll come be the #2. I'll come be the #3. And what I thought about when I was asked this question is the team I root for. Because I'm still a fan of a team. I'm a fan of my hometown Kansas City Chiefs. I think hometown Kansas City Chiefs are going to try to go win a Super Bowl this year, certainly compete in the playoffs. If the Chiefs need wide receivers, by the way. You got Tyreek Hill. CC says not a typical #1 option. They don't have a great big body guy. Like, there's a fit there. They got a little cap space as well. How would I feel if the Chiefs signed Dez Bryant? Man, I'd be nervous as hell. We got a rookie. We got a second-year quarterback we're trying to develop.
Exactly.
Like, so if we now, okay, so you don't want to put him on a team with a young quarterback. You don't want to put him on a team with a bad quarterback. You don't want to put him on we're winnowing the options of what makes sense for Dez.
Well, and the one thing that we're all talking about here is Dez as the football player, and Dez as the wide receiver, and Dez catching a ball, and Dez maybe being a mentor to young wide receivers. How much factors into Dez as the person and the person he is in the locker room and the high energy, sometimes the high tempered person he can be on the sideline and when things don't exactly go well. Do you factor that in at all when you think about bringing Dez into your organization?
Absolutely. You have to. There's no way you can overlook the total package. Is he a good football player? Yes. But is he a good enough football player to where you can overlook some of the things that he does on the sideline mid-game? If things, to CeCe's point, aren't going his way, if he's not being targeted 5, 6, 7, 8 times a game, that could be problematic. And you're having young guys that are trying to do things the right way, that you want to have guys, when you get to that year 6, 7, 8, 9 and above, now your role is starting to shift. Are you still a playmaker? Yes. But now you're looked upon as more of a mentor. I need you to set the example, be the example to these younger guys that we're bringing up and developing. You play a huge role in that. Will Dez Bryant be willing and capable of doing that? I'm not sure he's able to do that with some of the things that we've seen throughout his career on the sideline.
And you have to do your homework. Greg and I know more information than other people. We'll just tell you, do your homework. Buyer beware. You got to be concerned about the influence that he's ultimately going to have on your locker room and your receiving room, and ultimately the quarterback. at this point in his career, you can't be a negative influence on who's going to be your quarterback. Also, let's not forget, for a number of years, Jerry Jones hired someone to chaperone Dez, to make sure that he was at the meetings, make sure. So Dez, I don't know where he is as a professional. That's the research that you must do before you bring him into your organization.
Smart stuff. Greg, stick around. Coming up, what's going on with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers? That's next on First Things First. To the NFL yesterday, it was Tom Brady. Now we can add Aaron Rodgers to the list of quarterbacks reportedly frustrated with management. It's an epidemic. In a report by Yahoo Sports, Aaron Rodgers is frustrated after not being consulted on personnel decisions. After this report, Rodgers tweeted out #fake news Tuesday, so we know how he feels. He met the media yesterday discussing the offseason.
That's the toughest part about the whole thing, is losing guys over the years, the Jordys, the James Jones, the A.J. Hawks, the John Coons, the Julius Peppers, guys you get close to. And again, those are team decisions. I know my role, and that's to play quarterback the best that I can, and the team is going to try and put the right guys in place, the right coaches in place, the right players in place. And you just have to trust the process.
Greg, are you buying that Aaron Rodgers is okay not having a say in personnel decisions, or not being consulted, or not being spoken to, or not even factoring in at all?
I'm not buying the fact that he's okay not being consulted to, or at least informed.
That it's going to happen.
That it's going to happen. I think that is disturbing, and that is frustrating. Internally, as he mentioned, when you develop relationships with these guys, on and off the field.
When you say these guys?
His receivers, his linemen, his quarterback coach.
Okay.
Guys who you now sit down with every single day and you spend the majority of your time with, and you find out, wow, we're moving on from them, and you're a major piece, the most important piece to that puzzle. It can be frustrating. You go to work the next day feeling some type of way. I don't care who you are. Now, a lot of people in our media world say, well, you can't take things personal. Well, yes, you can. You can. When you've invested your life, your sweat, your tears, your blood, and you've put your body in the way to where you've risked so much to be successful for these guys, with these guys, yes, I want to be able to know, not so much make decisions or have a say in the decisions, but I want to be in the know. Just allow me that much to where I'm at least informed. So when I do have a camera in my face, or when I do have a microphone put up to me, I can speak educatedly in knowing, yes, we were in support of this, or I was aware. But to be blindsided, that's like a slap in the face. And with him coming up with this contract situation, it'll be interesting, because this new era player, I'm not just staying just because anymore.
Right. You and I are opposite ends of the spectrum. Now, I was very, very fortunate in my career with the Vikings that the Vikings did inform me of a lot of players. They did call me about a number of players. Because the relationship I had with the general manager, it wasn't to get my approval, but it was, he knew that the intel I knew around the league was precious. He knew that I ran my own training facility, so I trained with a lot of guys. He knew that I'd been on another team, so I had existing relationships. And what he would do was probe me for information to help him do his job. One time he called me, I was in South Carolina, Kiowa, playing golf, and he said, man, we're looking for a backup quarterback. And he said, what do you think about Randall Cunningham? I said, well, unless you're going to say someone that's starting on the team, like, we need to get him signed right now. And it was like, really? Like, you like Randall? Like I said, he said, he didn't play last year. I said, I don't care. Those other guys can't play quarterback. I don't care what Randall was doing. He always stayed in shape. I knew he'd be great for the locker room. I said, I don't care. He can come to the Vikings right now and be able to help the team. But it wasn't personal. For him, the general manager was young. He was transitioning from the business side to the football side, and he knew the intel that I knew about the league at that point was valuable. But he never came to me when they were going to cut players, when they were going to release players, because that's not what I signed up for. In my contract, it doesn't say, oh, at the end of your 7th year, we're going to start having you involved in personnel. I believe that the front office is more equipped. They're less emotional. And, yes, there's some drawbacks to the job. And that's one day, one of your friends is in the locker room, his locker is going to be empty. Someone else is going to be wearing his jersey. That's part of playing in professional sports. But I've only seen a rare few who can actually understand what personnel, what it means, not be emotional, and be separate. Separate the business of it and the football of it. So for me, I don't care about none of the players. I ain't going to inform none of them. I ain't going to let them know as a courtesy. I could care less how they feel.
My question is this. Even if you believe that there is no player in the league that should have a say in who's cut, who's not cut, who's extended, who's not extended, fine. But what is the downside to a heads up? What is the, even if you think it shouldn't have to happen?
It shouldn't have to happen.
Okay, but what's the downside
Because it's not a part, emotionally, I don't want you to be attached to the information I give you. And I'm going to be making decisions in the future that I'm not going to give you a heads up on. All right? So, no, I'm not going to cross the line. I'm not going to make the waters muddy. I run the team, or as a department, we run the team. Your job is to play on the team. And somehow you figure the playing and dabbling in personnel like they should mix. I don't know what information you have that would make it think that, why would it be better for Aaron Rodgers to have this information?
But as a mentor, as an advisor, as a parent, there are certain decisions you make to where you are going to either inform beforehand so that a decision can be made.
There's also a lot of decisions I make on my kids' behalf that they don't know.
Exactly.
Because I can see the future.
But there's a mixture of both. That's my point. You tend to do both. And there's no, to Nick's point, there's no problem with, Aaron has been proven to be able to handle a lot of different things throughout his career. Family, friends, guys being released, cut, whatever the case may be, injury. He's been proven to be able to take on a lot of different things. But to just completely X him out, I get it. It's business. It's
never have him involved. If you never get him involved, you never have to worry about Xing him out.
You're correct in that, but now you have to deal with a guy who's your guy.
Okay, you know something
who can be disgruntled, who can leave, who can walk out the door.
No, he can.
Well,
no, he can't.
That part we
Not right now.
He can't never do that.
But it's 4 years. It'd be the earliest he could actually leave is 4 years.
Oh, we can franchise him.
No. That's with the franchise. He has 2 years left on his contract.
And he's 33 now.
Right. No. I don't think him leaving is a tangible threat. Not in the NFL. NBA is different, obviously, because of the franchise tag, because he's never been franchise tagged. But the heads up on the quarterback's coach, I just don't see what the downside to it is. And the other part of this that I think, we talk a lot about how the Packers do business a certain way.
The negative is if Aaron wants to keep the guy and you want to fire him.
I guess my thing is that what if you've already made the decision? Aaron, we want to let you know before the news comes out. We've decided to let this guy go.
Then I agree with you at this point. What's the point? What's the point?
I feel
so
like
now everything, when Jordy Nelson's getting ready to get cut, I got to call Aaron first. Where's Aaron? Is Aaron out the country? Where's Aaron? I wonder how Aaron's going to feel about this. I'm getting ready to get off of Greg Jennings. Aaron likes Greg Jennings. You're going to keep your friends around.
Well, let me ask you a question real quick, though, because you alluded to something earlier, which is you said as we were going to break, the year after you broke the NFL record for catches, they fired the wide receivers coach?
Yes.
Okay. Did they let you know? No. And what was your feeling when you heard about it?
There was nothing I could do. It wasn't my job. My job is to catch touchdowns, get first downs, help the guys in the locker room, and take care of my family. Nowhere in that did it say, hey, man, any of these decisions you don't like, I want you to come upstairs and voice your opinion.
CC, I agree with you. It wasn't your job, but it impacted you. At some level, it disturbed you.
Yeah, it impacted me. The next year I came back and did 122 and 17.
Man, I know
that's the truth.
You're going to ball regardless, but because
it's not my position.